I'd like to welcome everyone to today's exciting webinar filled with a lot of great news in regards to our Replibit offering. We are joined by Dr. Kevin Hoffman, our CEO, along with Andy Bensinger, the founder of the Replibit product. Again, we're going to be interactive today, so if you've got a question, feel free to zap that over to us via the chat function, and we'll make this as real time as we can. And keep an eye out for some polls throughout the presentation today, as we want to get some feedback as it relates to how these products and how these enhancements will be impacting, hopefully, yourself and your client base. So again, thank you very much for joining, and I'll pass it over to Kevin.
Okay, thanks a lot, Robert. Welcome to the eFolder family. It's a semi-spring day here in Denver, so today we've got a lot of fun news, and this is what's on the agenda. So just a very quick introduction to Replibit for those of you who are new to that, and then what we've done with innovation around BDR appliances, introducing the most comprehensive lineup of BDRs and the most affordable on the market. With this launch, and then something we've done to enhance replication with Replibit. We've heard from partners about failing back and the different situations and business cases, and we feel, there's some exciting news to share there. So eFolder is a pure channel MSP-focused company delivering solutions for business continuity, data protection, and mobile productivity. We've got cloud-to-cloud backup solutions in Cloud Finder, file sync sharing and collaboration in Anchor, file-level data protection with backup for files, and then server and desktop business continuity with Replibit. So today we're focused entirely on Replibit. And so here's a brief overview of how Replibit works. So Replibit is an appliance-based business continuity solution. You install agents onto your servers that you want to protect, your Windows servers or your desktops, and it can take backups as often as every 15 minutes, incremental backups, image-based to that appliance. That appliance allows you to instantly virtualize, do file-level recoveries, have tiered retention policies, do automated screenshot verifications every day, and overall, keep just a very modern BDR experience, local bare metal restores, virtual recoveries, that sort of thing. So the data from there can be replicated to the eFolder cloud, wherein you can do file-level recoveries from the eFolder cloud. You can get emergency disk shipments. You can download your data, back to your appliances, and you can also recover in the continuity cloud. So in the case of an all-site disaster, you can actually spin your business up, just paying for the resources you're using, and run the business from the eFolder cloud until you get your client back on their feet. Replibit also fully supports a model where you're vaulting to yourself. So many MSPs have their own infrastructure and prefer to be closer to the data, and so they're using Replibit to vault to the Replibit vaulting software that makes it easy to run your own Replibit vault on your own infrastructure, and this enables the same recovery situations that the MSP can fully control using the free Replibit vaulting software. So why Replibit? What's interesting about it? So Replibit uniquely combines our own proprietary software that's patented, combined with a custom-designed series of appliances with the scale of the eFolder cloud, and then a global management portal to provide a single unified management experience across all of your clients' BDRs and appliances. So beyond the completely integrated offering, we also have some unique technologies that are unique to Replibit. So we're going to cover chain-free backup, fast flash storage, and Durabit storage technology briefly.
So this is Andy Bensinger. So when we sat down with a blank piece of paper about 7 or 8 years ago and decided we wanted to enter the BDR market space, we kind of looked back and said, what are the major issues that partners or MSPs run across in chain-based technologies, and we wanted to eliminate those from the get-go. So when we created Replibit, we started from day one with the idea of we want to have chain-free backups. And we did several other things along the way to also make your life as an MSP easier and more profitable. So included in our agent, we've had the ability to roll out without a server reboot. You don't need maintenance windows to install us. As soon as you push us out, you can immediately start taking backups. We've eliminated the notion of what we call surprise differentials. I'm sure many of you have noticed in a lot of the chain-based architectures out there that if your server locks up during a backup or if you lose power during a backup, when power is restored or your machine comes back up, it immediately fires off a differential, which in most cases is more processor and disk and time intensive than an initial backup of a system, and it puts you into a reseed scenario. Replibit, we have the ability to do a resume job of where we left off in a backup, so that notion of having to run a differential doesn't exist in our world. It also mitigates reseed scenarios. In our chain-free topology, we have no notion of a recommended reseed every 3 months, 6 months, or once a year. In a chain-free architecture, every recovery point is completely independent from one another. So it doesn't matter if you elect to delete a backup at any point in time. You can recover going forward or backwards. We have no notion of synthetic dailies, weeklies, monthlies, forward incremental, reverse incremental. It doesn't matter what you call it. In our world, every single recovery point is completely independent from one another. And as I mentioned before, you can delete any recovery point. In a good scenario when you may want to do that is, let's say you got CryptoLocker at midnight, you're running hourly backups, you find out at 8 in the morning. In our world, you can just delete those 8 recovery points, remove the CryptoLocker from your backup sets, and you don't have to worry about reintroducing it down the road or having to take a new base image and reseed everything. And this independence also allows us to have tiered retention policies without duplication of data. In traditional chain-based topology, at the end of the day, when you generate your synthetic dailies, weeklies, or monthlies, those are all extra copies of your data sets. In our world, we don't need to do that, and we give you the ability to, on a scheduled basis, delete any backups minus an exclusion list. So you can say, keep every single backup I have for, let's say, 90 days, and delete anything that is older than that except for the last backup of the day, last backup of the week, or last backup of the month and year as well. And it reduces your size requirements both locally and remotely. Kevin, do you have anything to add to chain-free?
That was a good overview. Thanks, Andy.
Sure.
Excellent. So we found, just based on this alone, MSPs who have adopted Replibit are saving 75% of the labor costs they're putting into BDR have been eliminated from not having to manually manage the work required from rebasing and keeping some chain-based systems healthy. So Fast Flash is something that we developed and announced last year. So what we wanted to deliver with our BDR appliances with Replibit was something that provided a 50x performance improvement at a very reasonable cost compared to traditional BDR appliances. And so we developed this Fast Flash technology, which provides a consistent stable state SSD performance over time. So a lot of just consumer SSDs that you find in your laptop, they're really fast in the beginning, and as the drive fills up and is used over time, the SSD gets slower and slower as more blocks are used up, and there's very little space, for the SSD to work within. And so we've been able to find something that's similar to the economics of client-side SSDs, but with the performance profile of an enterprise SSD that can provide a consistent guarantee on latency and IOPS per second, which is what you want when you're virtualizing server workloads on a BDR. And so we're able to deliver this excellent level of performance at half the cost of data center solid-state storage. Another layer of protection we built into our Replibit appliances is what we call Durabit, which is 5 layers. So in our mini appliance, for example, we start with 3 SSDs, And each SSD has a layer of capacitors that ensures that if there is a sudden power failure, anything in the write cache of these SSDs gets properly flushed to stable storage on the SSD. Then within each block or page, as it's called, flash storage, there's additional data parity similar to RAID but at a small scale to protect any small amounts of data that might get corrupted. Beyond that, then you've got entire NAND chip level RAID. So each of these pages combine to form, another layer of redundancy where you could lose an entire NAND chip and still have your data be intact. And then that's all within each single SSD. And now you've got one of these three SSDs is also used for parity information, so you can lose any one of these three without losing any data. And finally, we have silent data corruption protection technology on top to ensure that every data block that's stored also has a strong checksum and is verified upon read that we know that we're getting back exactly what was written. And so on top of the silent data corruption protection, we're doing the automated screenshot verification where we boot your backups every day and aggregate all those screenshots into our one unified global management portal system for you. And then we're doing some file system integrity checks on every backup to make sure that the data is mountable and you can do file-over recoveries. So last year we announced all these game-changing technologies and we delivered it to market, and so it's been received quite well with the launch of our 3 appliance units. And we claimed a 50x performance, and we've actually observed, with the units we've shipped, a 50x performance in storage compared to legacy BDR appliances. And there's been a 5x better reliability in terms of part failures and BDR hardware failures in the units we've shipped compared to the legacy BDR appliances. And so we're excited that these appliances have been received well, and the technologies are delivering on their promise. So we shared this quote last year at our launch meeting, and good software, I love this quote, is an act of empathy. This solution is all about you and meeting your needs and listening. And so, we've been listening as many partners that bought these appliances and used them. They've given us a lot of feedback. And so there's 2 key things that we heard so far. The first is, and I love these appliances. The Mini, is our most popular model, of course, and then the Pro and the Rack, and it scales up well, but it's still not enough where I can just go to every single one of my small clients and deploy a BDR. It's not quite cheap enough. It's not quite, their price point wise to displace, some non-BDR based backup solutions. We've also heard that some MSPs have clients with just a large amount of data and a much lower level of performance requirements. So you might have a customer with several terabytes worth of photographs because they're a photographer for a business or something like that, and they just don't need to pay for an all-flash appliance, and you're competing against others and you want to optimize that dollar per gigabyte to be as low as humanly possible, but without sacrificing a reasonable level of performance and reliability. And so we've developed hybrid flash appliances that bring many of the reliability benefits of flash, but with the cost benefits of spinning storage, and still provide a better level of performance than just pure spinning hard disks by themselves. So first we're going to talk about the Nano, which is our new entry-level BDR model. And so, why the Nano? So what we've heard, many of you have entry-level clients, and they're just not willing to pay for a full BDR. So many of you are using, a NAS device, Synology or a Buffalo or something like that as a storage area, and you're using image-based backup software that is storing image files to that NAS device or USB external disk attached to, a single server for a client. or you might even be doing file level backups plus system state for some of your small clients. The reason, we've heard that this is happening is that the clients just say, look, I paid a lot of money for my one server, and I don't want to have to pay, for a second failover type server and a BDR solution. I don't think it's worth paying for that. But inevitably what happens is, some of those clients have their servers have problems and they fail, and it creates emergencies for everybody when it happens, because when their servers do fail, well, of course they expect, you as the MSP to solve the solution, the problem as quickly as possible. And so it creates emergencies waiting to happen, and tensions are high, and, it makes your day hard to plan for when you could have these emergencies waiting to happen. So we're going to try to do a quick survey here and just see, how many of you are managing clients that are using, either file level backups or image-based backups going to an external USB disk or a NAS device. So yeah, let's just take a few seconds. So maybe Andy, you have any comments or perspective about, this the low-end client while we're getting the survey?
Yeah, what we've found is, on scale, there are lots of end users out there who really need the high functionality of a BDR, and for whatever reason, whether it's, they don't want to pay for it or they simply can't afford it, they are not receiving the full level of services that our MSP partners are offering, and it's driven by this budgetary constraint. So by offering the Nano device, we're now pushing down the capability of full-blown BDRs into a form factor that's sized right and priced right to offer true nearline business continuity to these smaller businesses where they traditionally weren't able to afford it. So, as an MSP, you can now meet or exceed your customer expectations by offering these types of services when you just traditionally haven't been able to afford to do so.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, thanks, Robert. So results came in, 65% of you voted, and 89% of you are managing clients, entry-level client backups. And so, yeah, this is something that we've heard as well. It's just very common in the industry. So what can we do about it? This is where it gets exciting. So, what if you could deliver that full BDR experience, instant failover, file level recoveries, bare metal restores, automated verification of your backups every day, so that you knew, hey, if my low-end client has a hardware failure, it's not going to create an emergency for me. I can immediately go click a button, bring their server back up, and then I have time later to go and fix whatever issue. And you can do it at a price point that is very similar to the cost of these lower-end solutions. And so that's the goal that we set out with the Nano. Our goal is it's a BDR that's so affordable that every single client can afford a BDR. A situation where you may not even tell them you've got this capability because the price point is similar, and then you can over-deliver as an MSP. So the Replibit Nano is a small 4.5 inch by 4.5 inch by 2 inches device based on the 7th generation Intel architecture platform. And it combines there's 4 key characteristics. So the first is that it's powerful. We didn't want to compromise on the beauty of fast flash in delivering this entry-level BDR. We wanted something, we found that server workloads for entry-level clients are typically I/O bound. And so if we can deliver 50x the storage performance of a traditional SMB server, when it virtualizes on the BDR, they're going to have a good experience. This is going to boot quickly within a few seconds, and everything's going to come up and work, and the client's going to be happy. And so that's what we were optimizing for in terms of its power and capabilities. We also wanted to make sure it was reliable. Like, labor is time and money, and if you pay for something cheap, but then you're paying for it again and again by sending techs to constantly repair these things out in the field, you're not winning. And so it needs to have all of the the level of reliability that you would expect for this, more than you would expect for this price point, really. So we baked in a lighter version of Durabit featuring 4 layers of data protection instead of 5, and then a 3-year warranty which can be extended to 5 if you choose to do so. It's also unlimited, so there are a few other competing BDRs in the market that are more expensive, and they also have some restrictions. So they might only allow you to back up 1 or 2 endpoints to an appliance, their entry-level BDR appliance, and this appliance is unlimited. You can do unlimited. You can back up unlimited servers, desktops, and if you're using the appliance-based pricing model, you get unlimited cloud storage for whatever you store on the appliance with either a 3-year or a 10-year retention plan. And so you don't have to worry. We found that many of our MSPs might have 3 servers because they've got a host and 2 virtual servers, and that's the way they prefer to roll things out, and that would eliminate a lot of the entry-level BDR units of the competition. You don't have to worry about that with the Nano from eFolder. And it's affordable, so a 0.5 terabyte unit, which we found can cover at least half of an average MSP's clients, is $650 up front, and if you're using the appliance-based pricing scheme that I described, it's $69 a month. And then for a 2 terabyte unit, it's only $1,200, and it's $199 a month. And so we're excited about the price points. This is also fully compatible if you're using price per server per month, or you're vaulting to yourself and you're just paying about half this price for the software licensing. We're happy with that too. And so this is an opportunity to, in our view, deliver BDR to a much larger percentage of your clients without having them to bite the bullet and pay for a very expensive solution. So briefly, Durabit Lite, it's a single SSD solution, and you still have power loss protection, your page level ECC redundancy, your NAND chip RAID, and then your silent data corruption protection, your file system integrity checks, and your automated screenshot verification. So because it's a single SSD, it is possible that whole SSD could fail, which is why if you're using the Nano, you need to make sure that you're either vaulting to yourself or you're backing up to the eFolder cloud. And we made the price point such that it should be affordable to do that, but you'll want to do that so that data is then replicated off-site and you've got a second copy of that somewhere else. So how does the Nano compare to our next level of appliance up, the Mini? So the Nano, 0.5 terabyte to 2 terabytes, single SSD, Durabit Lite, 16 gigs of RAM, $650 to $1,200. The Mini adds the full power of Durabit, so you've got 3 SSDs instead of 1, plus a dedicated OS SSD, and we're announcing that it's now available with up to 4 terabytes of storage on the Mini. So previously the maximum was 2 terabytes. It's got a much more powerful processor with up to 32 gigs of RAM as well, and so if your client has a little bit higher needs, the Mini is a great option that's still highly affordable. It's best in class for its capabilities in terms of its price and performance. All right, so we've talked about scaling it down, and now we can talk about MSPs who told us that we need to scale up better. So again, back to these use cases where you've got clients that just have large amounts of data and only a couple of servers, you've got to cover those too. We want to provide a BDR solution that covers all of your customers, not just some of them. So we introduced hybrid flash appliances. So fast flash, we are optimizing out of these 3 dimensions for performance and density, and we delivered something that was unique in the market. We're the only a full lineup of all flash BDR offerings in the market, and so that is something that's been received quite well. And so with hybrid flash now, we're optimizing for cost and for density instead. And so let's look. So hybrid flash is available for the Mini, the Pro, and the Rack. It's exactly the same form factor. There's no differences in size. You still get the benefits of the small power utilization, the system on a chip architecture that delivers 10 gigabit networking and other things. So you're not sacrificing the foundations of these BDR appliances, but you're just getting a different trade-off in terms of performance versus density versus cost. So on the Mini, there is a single option available for hybrid flash. So for $2,000, you can get a 4 terabyte hybrid flash unit, and that's about 75%. It's about 30-40% less than the 4 terabyte fast flash BDR. So we found that 4 terabytes for many MSPs will cover 95% of their clients, and so now for less than $2,000, you can cover almost all of your clients, even those with larger data sets. On the Pro, the Pro is field expandable. The entry-level Pro on the new hybrid flash, it's about double the storage, and as you scale up, it's about half the price. So as you can see, it starts at $3,600 for 6 terabytes of storage, and then it expands out all the way up to 30 terabytes of storage for just $6,600. So it's an incredible value if you don't need the performance of all flash. This is a great option that's now available. And finally, with the Pro, the rack mount version, it goes all the way up to 36 terabytes for $8,400, which we feel will cover just about everybody in the market. So at this point, we've scaled down all the way to a half terabyte unit at $650, and we've scaled all the way up to 36 terabytes for $8,400. And this is available today in the Replibit portal for purchasing. So these are shipping. So we're excited to make these new options available to you right away. So Robert, any questions so far before we move on to the next section?
No, I think you're covering everything that the audience is looking for at this point, Kevin. So I think we're ready to keep going.
Okay. Very good. So I'm going to let Andy introduce this. It's been a topic near and dear to his heart for a while, and we're excited, to be able to deliver this today. So.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. This is a topic that I've been extremely passionate about for going on 2 years now. We are of the belief that one of our primary objectives is to empower your business and not dictate how you need to run your business because the software is limited in a particular fashion. So I'm very pleased to announce that we have officially released our multi-vault replication, and included in that is a brand new replication engine that is highly resilient and will also make your life easier with regard to seeding operations or preloads, whatever you call them. This new replication engine has the ability to do resume jobs if there are network interruptions or hiccups along the way. It picks up from the last verified packet that was delivered. So in many cases now, if you run the math of the time required to do preload or seed jobs, you can now calculate how long it'll take, and you'll find out that you can get your data over the wire without rolling a truck, without having to deliver a seed drive, copy the data, bring it back to your office, and ship it off. So we're hoping that our partners are really going to leverage this new replication engine and keep your costs down and your brain damage down by sending your data over the wire. So that's the first part of it. The second part, Kevin, if you don't mind going to the next slide. Kevin, did I lose you? There you go.
Sorry.
Thanks. Hey, no problem. I appreciate it. So under traditional replication, your data went from your production systems onto the BDR appliance, and we were flexible. We gave you the choice. You could send it to the eFolder cloud, or at no cost to you, we would give you the software to build your own vault, and you could send the data back to your office. We've now changed that. We've added what we're calling multi-vault replication, which allows you to send data to an unlimited number of vaults. So depending on your use case scenario or your customer need, you can still have your BDR on site. You can still send your data off site to the eFolder cloud, but you can now offer secondary or tertiary vaults for the data set. So if you have a partner that is extremely sensitive and wants vast geo-redundancy, you can send it to the eFolder cloud, but you can also build a vault in your rack, in your data center, and send the data yourself. And should the worst happen, you now have options for data recovery. You can declare an emergency and spin everything up in the eFolder cloud, or because you have that vault local to you and it wasn't a regional catastrophic failure, you can recover all the data locally and get your customer up quickly and easily, and also get the data to a secondary location in a little bit of an easier fashion because you have physical control of that. Or there's also a third option in here, because we're not limiting you to 2 vaults. If your customer has multiple locations, you can not only send it to the eFolder cloud, but you can send it back to your data center, and you could send it to a secondary office at the customer. So you can easily cross-replicate the data, giving you absolute flexibility in your deployment. We're offering at this point no charge for this extra capability, and with our auto update features, this has already been pushed out to all the units in the field. So if you're currently a partner and you're not using this feature, you may want to consider, spinning up your own vault and having data coming back to your data center to just give you a little bit more flexibility in your rollout options, and you can offer geo-redundancy and things of that nature. Kevin, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think another key point here is that the Replibit vaults are multi-tenant for MSPs, and so, you as an MSP, you can buy one of our hybrid, our new hybrid, large capacity appliances and use it as a vault. So it doesn't actually take, that many units. You could buy one of the larger units and just vault, a large number of your clients who are worried about, well, my data is really far away if I have a disaster. And so because we're not charging extra for it, it's actually could be, not very expensive to deploy. Something else that we haven't mentioned is that you can also bring your own appliance and hardware. Replibit is, based on Ubuntu Linux, and so, there's a lot of hardware out there that's compatible with Ubuntu Linux, and so we very much support that model. It's not going away. Even as we're investing and innovating on our appliances, we're fully supporting and welcoming partners to use, hardware that's compatible with Ubuntu Linux. If they prefer to use, hardware that meets different specs, or, is their preferred vendor or whatever. So, that's...
Yeah, and a further point of clarification on the multi-tenant. And in other words, you can have many BDR appliances in the field all replicating back to a singular vault at your data center.
Exactly. Yeah. So our goal with Replibit is to provide this comprehensive solution so you can meet whatever SLAs you want to have with your client. So you might have a really premium offering, so you can charge more for clients who want another tier. I want it replicated to locally and to the cloud, or I want to have another site. There's no reason as an MSU you can't charge for that. And so because eFolder's not charging for that, some of your clients that want that, you can make a lot more money without a lot of additional cost or labor required to do that. And so yeah, it's just something that is also unique in the market. Multi-vault replication is not common in in solutions, in BDR solutions in the market. Key competitors don't have this feature, and so we're excited to deliver this as part of the Replibit platform. So
on that particular note, Kevin and Andy, we had one question come in. Can MSPs vault to both of eFolder's data centers instead of to themselves?
Yeah, so with multi-vault replication and eFolder has multiple data centers, the answer is it's technically possible, and we are figuring out the level of demand and how that should be priced, simply because you're clearly using more cloud storage if you want to send it to two places in eFolder's cloud. And so if that's interesting for you, just reach out to us through your account manager, get us looped in, and we'll love to chat with you about it, to explore that further.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. We've actually had some, if you've got any more questions about the new software and some of these new capabilities, please keep those coming. We are going to circle back to some questions about the appliances. One question came in. Do you have to use an appliance to use eFolder's Replibit? Can you back up straight to the eFolder cloud?
Yep. So right now you do need to use a Replibit appliance locally. It can be a virtual appliance. So Replibit does run within VMware or Gen 1 Hyper-V VM. And so that is something that some people do in a virtual environment, or yeah, but that's another thing that we've heard over the years is, what about backing up directly to cloud? But it's not happening yet. It's not possible yet.
All right, thank you. Okay, coming in from Travis. Is there IPMI or other hardware-based remote access on the Nano?
Yep, good question. Yeah, we knew that question would come up, and so we are working on a variant of the Nano that will have remote management lights out capabilities, meaning the ability to control the power remotely, as well as the console, to view the console remotely of a Nano unit, and hopefully for just a few $100s more. So we're in the final stages of vetting an option for that, and we hope to announce something along, an option soon. And so stay tuned, but we're going to deliver. The remote management option is that last mile. That's one of the few gaps we feel remains, based on what we've heard.
Okay. In regards to Nano and Durabit Lite, which layer is not included in Durabit Lite and the Nano that's on the other SSD?
So the layer that's not included in Durabit Lite is the layer where you have a RAID across multiple SSDs. So because the Nano is single SSD, that's the layer that's missing. And that's why we always recommend with the Nano that you're either vaulting to yourself or you're vaulting to eFolder's cloud in conjunction with that Nano.
Okay, thank you. Coming in from Bob. How much data would a 5 gigabit unit back up? How do we size them based on data to back up?
Yep. So we have a sizing calculator that's available that can help you answer those questions. The short answer is, I think it's about 350 to 400 gigs of compressed data. And how well your data compresses, of course, depends whether it's normal business data or image level data. It is very efficient because, as Andy mentioned, we don't have a lot of duplicate data from the different representations of daily, weekly, monthly entry points in a chain, and so you can also have different retention policies locally versus in the cloud. So, for example, you're paying $69 a month for the unlimited cloud 3-year retention option with the Nano 500. You could set retention locally to just 30 days and still have 3-year retention in the eFolder cloud. And so those are some ways you can use to keep the amount of data usage smaller locally without sacrificing that long-term retention.
Okay.
So let's see, the memory in the Nano is 16 gigabytes. Yeah, it's all 16 gigabytes for the Nano.
Okay. As far as hardware and warranties, do these appliances come with a warranty, and if so, what is that? What's the basis of that?
Yep, it's comes standard with a 3-year advanced replacement warranty on these units, and there's an option to upgrade to a 5-year warranty at time of purchase.
And Linux and Mac backup, are those coming as well?
We've gotten requests for those. We're trying to assess demand. We've often heard, many MSPs only have a few servers to protect, but we do have research and some efforts along those lines. It's really a function of what should we deliver first, based on back to software as an act of empathy. How does it stack up compared to what other MSPs want? And so we know we can deliver that if it pops to the top of an MSP, of what our MSPs want.
Okay, thank you. In regards to the Nano and the monthly cost, does that include the device and the backup?
Good question. Yeah, so right now this is not a hardware subscription program, so this is you would pay $650 for the device, and then the backup price with the unlimited 3-year retention plan would be that $69 a month. If you look at the cost of that $650 appliance over its 3-year life cycle, that's adding, essentially another $18 a month, average cost to the unit. And what we recommend, what we've heard is that many MSPs can charge an install fee for putting in backup, and you might be able to charge a $500 install fee and almost fully cover the cost of this Nano, just based on a few hours of labor charges.
Okay. And in regards to the Nano or our other appliances, if the client that using that particular appliance leaves an MSP, can they repurpose the appliance? Can they move it to a different client? How's the managing of that particular aspect work?
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, it's really easy. So the appliances can be repurposed to any other custom location at any time. You just go in the Replibit portal and you remove the previous location from the appliance, and then you assign that appliance in the interface to a new location. So there's no restriction on where you use those appliances.
Okay, and on the opposite side of the spectrum, if an MSP wanted to add a second appliance to the BDR, how does that change the monthly charges?
So, yeah, each BDR is independent of other BDRs, and so we have two options for pricing models. There's the price per protected server per month model, either software only if you're vaulting to yourself, or if you want eFolder's cloud with endpoint pricing, it includes 2 terabytes of cloud storage bundled per endpoint. Or you can use the storage-based pricing, which you can think of as appliance-based pricing, where I've got an appliance and I just want unlimited agents and pay a single fixed fee based on the size of that appliance. So let's say I had 2 Nano 500s and I wanted to use appliance-based pricing. That would be 2 charges of $69 a month, or about $140 a month for your monthly subscription. And it is, month to month. When you buy an appliance, you're buying it outright up front, and then, you're not locking yourself into a longer-term contract when you buy that appliance.
Yeah, Kevin, it's important to note, too, that there's flexibility within those licensing models. For example, you could start with endpoint licensing, but your customer has grown the number of servers they have, and when you run the math on it, you realize it's more cost-effective for that to be an appliance or storage-based license. So you can just go in the licensing portal and change the licensing model and take advantage of what's most cost-effective.
That's right, and it's per location. So you might have one client that has a lot of small VMs where you just want, the appliance-based model, and then you've got a different client that has a few servers that have just tons of data, and you want to use the endpoint-based model for that particular client.
In regards to the Nano, is it field upgradable, and can they put a larger SSD inside it if an MSD would like to pursue that?
Yep, so the Nanos are not field upgradable, simply because it comes pre-integrated with the Replibit OS and the data volume completely pre-configured, and it's not turnkey to just install Replibit onto a larger SSD. We're looking at should there be some kind of trade-in or upgrade program on the Nano, and so we're interested to get your feedback there. So, be vocal about it. Get in touch with us. What you might want to see there.
Yeah, and Kevin, you would also lose. We do a lot of work on custom work on these hard drives for the Durabit Lite functionality, so they would lose that as well.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. And here's an operational question. So if a client system goes down, how long does it take to spin up and use the appliances in the cloud and get that client back up and running using the virtual system while they are replacing the hardware? And then how do they get the new information back onto the quote-unquote new PC?
Yeah, so you've got a Nano BDR appliance on site. It's taking backups, however often you want, every hour, for example, and the client server fails. So you go into the Replibit web-based interface on the appliance, which you can do from the global management portal, and you say, I want to spin up this server. So you click a button, and in less than 60 seconds, it's going to come up fully booted. So most of that time is just Windows recognizing the new hardware on that recognizing new hardware screen for about 30 seconds. But the VM starts within 5 seconds, and then that first boot takes 30 to 60 seconds, and then from there you'll be up and running. If it's an Active Directory server, you'll need to first set the new IP address on the Active Directory server like you normally do, but other than that, that just takes one more reboot, and second reboots often reboot in 5 to 10 seconds because this is a flash-based architecture, and again, it's got 50x the storage IOPS of a typical non-flash SMB server. So in terms of getting the data back, once you've got the new hardware, you simply shut down the VM running on the Replibit appliance. You boot from the Replibit bare metal recovery ISO or CD or DVD USB on the server, and tell it to point to the Replibit appliance, and it'll recover back that VM that was your system that was virtualized on the Replibit appliance.
Yeah, and Kevin, in addition to that, we also know a lot of our partners are no longer installing anything on bare metal, so built into the Replibit recovery is an export function where you would select the recovery point that was the VM, hit the export button, and the system will ask you, do you want a VMDK, VHD, VHDX, VDI, or a RAW file, and we'll convert the backup set into those formats and hand you fully formed virtual hard drives that you can just copy over to whatever hypervisor you're using.
Yep.
Okay. We do have one question a little bit more on the chain-free technology. I think the quote was, "It almost seems too good to be true." So could we maybe just go into a little bit more detail on chain-free, and is a real full backup happening with each snapshot?
Yeah, so there's a couple of really interesting pieces here, and so one is the way that the recovery points are stored, and so the Replibit appliance allows every backup to essentially be stored in what essentially looks like a snapshot-based SAN. For those who are working with SANs that have snapshotting features, but in our case, it's allows us to have every snapshot to be independent of every other one, and so when a backup happens, the agent delivers the set of change blocks, and then we're able to construct a new snapshot in the Replibit system representing that recovery point that is only sharing, it's sharing those common blocks and then stores only the differences. The other piece of this is that the agent itself is really unique. Most agents use a filter driver to track changes on the volume, and Replibit has a very different set of technologies that is able to understand and compare not just what happened now versus the very last backup, but to compare and understand the contents of the file system rapidly and to deliver the actual changes, and so it's not dependent on just a filter driver, and that's also why you don't have to reboot when you're installing the Replibit agent or upgrading the Replibit agent, making the Replibit agent very lightweight and low risk when it comes to installing it on your system and getting good backups. So there's a lot of secret sauce that's gone into the Replibit agent, and it's unique in the industry, and it's something that we feel is delivering just this this unique value prop in Replibit.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Are the backups using VSS, or is this completely VSS independent?
No, it's fully integrated with VSS. VSS is, stable at this point, and it does application consistent snapshots with Exchange and SQL, and so, we do recommend, that you use the default settings and, allow it to take application-aware VSS snapshots. Writers can be excluded from the backup if necessary, but best practice is to take application-aware snapshots.
Okay. We had a couple of questions in kind of this capacity, as far as, does it continue to back up the server while it's running at a virtualized state?
Yeah, so that data is backed up on the appliance, the current version of that server, and in a release shortly, additional recovery points will be created so that server will not only have its current virtualized set of data, but also continue creating additional recovery points while it's running. So the current version of that is stable and consistent and available for use, but the feature to automatically continue to take additional recovery points while it's virtualized is coming soon.
And can you touch on just compliance in general as it relates to Replibit? There was a question regarding HIPAA specifically, but...
Yep, so eFolder takes compliance really seriously. We've had a Chief Information Security Officer for several years here, and there's just many steps involved in fully becoming HIPAA compliant, and we are on track to deliver full HIPAA compliance and sign business associate agreements for Replibit by the end of Q2. Which is, we're now about 6 weeks away from that, so it's coming very shortly, so that it's fully compliant with HIPAA.
Wonderful, thank you, Kevin. As it relates to, a lot of MSPs have clients that don't have servers, just a lot of different workstations, and then a file repository. Does Replibit work on us without us? Does Replibit need a server domain running in order to fully function?
No. Yeah, the agent can be installed on anything that's Windows-based.
And got a few questions as well. So if there is competition out there, obviously not with some of the exciting things we've done today. So is it easy to convert maybe one of the competitive appliances over to the Replibit solution?
Andy, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, in many cases you can. We're based on an Ubuntu kernel, so we work on about 98% of the hardware out there. We've originated on a bring your own device model, so one of the keys was hardware compatibility. So chances are, yes. I would just touch base with your account manager so we can look through the hardware compatibility list and have a discussion about what RAID controller's in there and is it set up properly, or it can work under many scenarios, but the most efficient mechanism, and we can work with you on that in converting your existing hardware.
Wonderful, thank you, Andy. So we have generated a lot of excitement today. I think I've lost count on how many questions has reached out in regards to where can I find more information on the specificity of the pricing, the various options, and things of that nature regarding the new appliances.
Yeah, so we've got full spec sheets and an updated price list in the eFolder Partner Portal, and the eFolder Ordering Portal I believe also has some basic information, but portal.efolder.net has the information that you can find it there. If you don't have a login credential, contact your account manager or your AM. We'll be happy to send you, the information we're referencing. So there's a couple different ways to get that.
Okay. And there's a question about the over-provisioning. So I'm going to read this direct just to make sure I get it correct. Any option to over-provision, i.e. have enough SSDs for 6 terabyte, an MSP-built BDR, thinking to preserve the IOP gain of multiple SSDs but priced at a 3 terabyte level for tiered storage. This would also help gain back that 20% of OS and virtualization space.
Yep. So we're unique where our storage-based pricing is not tied to the size of the appliance. So I made an oversimplification when I called it appliance-based pricing. So you can have a 6 terabyte appliance, but only associate it with a 3 terabyte storage-based license. So that way, you can buy, larger capacity up front, have plenty of space, and then, make sure that when you have a 3 terabyte storage-based license, for example, it will allow you to back up and continue backing up until you hit that full 3 terabyte threshold. And that applies to any of our units. So, for example, you could buy a 2 terabyte Nano and only put a 500 gigabyte storage-based license on there until you exceed, that capacity, and then you just bump the storage-based license up in the portal. So we're uniquely flexible about that.
Yeah, and along those lines, Kevin, to be flexible on the Pro and Rack models, those are also field upgradable if somebody's going to be using our hardware and not BYOD, where you could buy a Pro 3000 and associate the proper license that you need for that. But if your client data does grow over time, you can actually order a field upgrade kit where we will ship you additional hard drives and we'll expand that unit when you need it. So you don't necessarily have to buy the hardware up front.
That's right, yeah. So the Pro and the Rack fast flash units start at 3 terabyte and they go up to 15 or 18 terabytes field upgradable. And the hybrids start at 6 terabyte for the Pro and the Rack, and they go all the way up to 30 or 36 terabytes field upgradable.
Are there any updates as it relates to the Replibit and ConnectWise integration?
Yeah, there was a big update that went into the launch that was released, I think it was 24 hours ago approximately. So yes, that should be any issues you might have had. There was major updates to the ConnectWise integration.
Okay. So I think a lot of the other questions have revolved around the topics that we've already covered. I think that brings us to the end of the call. I want to thank, certainly Kevin and Andy for all the information that you've been able to bring us today. Really appreciate it. I think based on the activity on the Q&A side, it's certainly gotten a lot of people's attention. Today we've covered a lot. We touched on really the essence of Replibit and really what makes this solution such a strong play and really the most robust offering in the marketplace today for BDR. We've touched on the smaller side and kind of scaling down, as Kevin put it, the launch of the Nano, an appliance that just has not been available today up until this point that really serves both size and function as well as cost. We've also launched the new hybrid lines where we're addressing, larger scale of storage needs at a much lower price than we've had historically. We've also touched on the software update where we've got a lot of great things as relates to the functionalities of Replibit. And again, just to reiterate, all of this is available immediately. So you can certainly find the pricing in the areas that Kevin spoke to earlier. And we're excited to be working with you. So we're looking forward to those future conversations about this product and some of the others within the eFolder solution suite. And if you have any questions, certainly reach out to us via either some of the contact information you received for the webinar or your account rep in that way. Again, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Andy. And thank you, everyone who's attended. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Yep, you're also welcome. I put my email up here as well, so don't hesitate to reach out.